Take a pit stop for all things NASCAR with the Ford Tire Change podcast. Here is your host, Dawson Iserlo.
It's the Ford Tire Change podcast, ESPN Southwest Louisiana. Dawson Iserlo back with you here today, and actually really excited to do this podcast. I got a chance to go to Richmond Raceway last weekend and witness that race live. And my expectations for the racing wasn't super high, and yet I think this race over-delivered. So we're going to talk about that. Playoffs, 1 week left. A lot of things are now kind of settled, honestly, because of what happened in Richmond. We'll talk about that in a minute. New Cup Series schedule has come out as well, so all that for you in the next handful of minutes. So first off, look, it was really cool for me to get over there. I've never been to Richmond Raceway. My dad's been a long time ago, so he had told me stories of it. He went in when it was in its heyday, when it was in the 30-something consecutive sellout streak, when everybody loved Richmond. It was short track racing, it was classic, and NASCAR was booming, right? We know it's come a long way since then and not in the right direction. Like, Richmond's been a pretty boring track for a long time now. It's been reduced from 2 dates to 1, and, things just haven't been great over there. They knock it down to 1 date, and I think that was such a good move because we've seen that with a lot of tracks right now. When you can create that yearly demand where people go, man, it's been a long time since they've raced at Richmond. Like, let's check it out. Let's go. We only got one shot to go this year. For whatever reason, it creates an urgency. And, I don't know what the carryover effect is. If you got a 60,000 seat, stadium and you put 40K in the first race and 40K in the second race, what's the overlap there? But I think it's clear that if there's 2 dates, there's a lot of people who choose not to go to both, and probably a lot of people who choose not to go to either. And when there's one, you get people in there. So I know it's reduced capacity, but I can, say from firsthand experience, the place was packed and it was rocking. Like, it was a very good atmosphere. It was a cool place to watch a race. And so then we get to the racing. Like I said, I didn't have super high expectations just because of Richmond races and the short track package on this car. And we've had a long run of races that weren't excellent. But tire wear comes to play. And, I know I've mentioned it, Jordan Bianchi of the Teardown's been big on the tire wear thing, and I kind of tend to agree with him. I don't see aero packages and all those things changing right now. You're not going to get a new car. You just invested millions of dollars into this car. You've got to find a way to make the tires the equalizer. And by equalizer, I don't mean bringing the cars together. I mean separating them apart, actually. Bringing that, the lap differences. If you're on a fresh set of tires, you should be faster than a car that's on 60-lap old tires by a significant margin, I might add. And we had that on Saturday night. It was awesome. So, early on in this race, you're seeing the different things that are playing out. You're wondering kind of who's going to be the comers and goers. There were a few unique strategies that I thought were interesting that I took note of. Shane Van Gisbergen specifically ripped the high line the entire night. And it actually worked out for him because we know by his standards he's been massively struggling with the ovals, and he finished top 15. So that was a big day for him. He was consistent with it. We saw his teammates try it a little bit too. There was a little bit of Ross Chastain getting in that realm a little bit. I think Daniel Suarez tried it briefly as well. But there was a different racing groove. Like, it was possible to run up there. Not everyone chose to do it, but SVG did it and had some success. So that's another good thing as far as where the racing is concerned. And then all the strategy that played out with the way the tires were, going down. We didn't have a ton of cautions for cause in this race. It was a lot of just, running out these green flag runs. And I thought that was really, really cool to see how it was playing out with different drivers who would have a big run. Maybe they pit early and try and play the long game or pit late and, hope a caution comes out. And typically they didn't. So at various points, you're kind of trying to keep track. All right, who's in the driver's seat right now? Who's really dominating this thing? And we didn't have a clear idea until the last stage. And in the last stage, here comes Austin Dillon. The guy who has more times than not in his career come up with these inexplicable wins. Now, typically, and I will give, I will go out and say it, typically there's been Lady Luck's been on Austin Dillon's side. He's gotten the crazy win at Charlotte and the crazy win at Daytona and the crazy win here and there. And of course, I'll remind you, last year, Austin Dillon in the final corner dumped not one but 2 guys on his way to winning this race and later being DQ'd by NASCAR for reckless driving, which was a huge story. He would have made his way into the playoffs, and he would have won that race, I will remind you, and it was some late race cautions that actually hurt him in that regard. This time around, there's none of that, man. I mean, he is cruising, and he had just flawless execution from his team down the stretch, nailed the last pit stop, got out there, and drove away from the field. I mean, had the best car in the entirety of the last stage. So I say hats off to RCR and Austin Dillon. I don't know what it is about that kid, and he gets a lot of flack for being, Childress's grandson and, being a Silver Spoon kid and all that stuff. You've got to acknowledge that he comes up with some pretty clutch wins out of nowhere, and I don't know what causes it. Now we get to talk about the playoffs, right? Because you have a situation now where the 25th driver in points is in. We know SVG's 24th in points. So this playoff system, which, by the way, NASCAR is still deciding on. They have not decided on the future of the format. They are having a committee that's meeting right now. I know a lot of different things are on the table, but they seem willing to change this thing around. And I think it's partly because of what I just mentioned. Like, you got 24th and 25th in points right now in the playoffs. Now, SVG's a different category than Austin Dillon because he has 4 wins. So if you're going to value wins, there's no way you're keeping that guy out with what he's done this season. And by the way, for this season, nothing's changing. We know the playoff format for this year, so Austin Dillon and SVG are in. The bubble is now not all that dramatic heading into the final race of the season at Daytona. Alex Bowman's 60 points clear of Chris Buescher. Buescher's not running him down. Technically, I guess it is theoretically possible if Bowman scored 0 and Buescher scored 60. If Bowman got DQ'd or something and Buescher won both stages in the race, he could be a tie with him. It's not going to happen, right? Bowman's going to be in as long as there isn't a new winner. Tyler Reddick's also going to be in on points. He's plus 89. But new winner, of course, stakes are simple at Daytona, right? If somebody outside that cut line wins, they are in, and Bowman is out unless he can make up 29 points on Tyler Reddick, which also seems very unlikely. The 45 team has the very unique opportunity, knowing they're in the playoffs unless something goes seriously wrong, as long as they secure, some sort of stage points and or Bowman doesn't have a great stage point total at the end of these two things, they can play this thing pretty conservative and then maybe go for it in the last stage, right? They just need to make sure they don't wreck themselves out early. I'd be very interested to know what the conversations are like in the 45 camp this week because, the aggression that they need to show early on in this race is really probably not there, but do you want to play it safe? Reddick's a guy who wants to go for it. Obviously, they'd love to rack up a couple of playoff points because they're going to be kind of on the wrong side of this thing, given what their situation is going in, without any wins, without any playoff point buffers. So that's going to be interesting to watch all that play out. But I will say, it still is the Daytona. I love Daytona as the last race of the regular season. Last year, we had the whole Olympics thing that kind of messed around with the schedule. I think this is awesome. The urgency will be there. Everything will be on the line, and it's Saturday night at Daytona. There's not a whole lot better than that. So excited to see how all that plays out. I will say past that, with where we're at and where these playoffs are going to go, that conversation about what the format's going to be in the future is going to be really fascinating. And, I think I probably favor – I understand the argument for the season-long points. It certainly pays a nod to the history of the sport. It does compete with what the other premier motorsport in the world right now is doing, which is F1. But at the same time, this is a made-for-television product in today's day and age. And as much as we like or hate that, NASCAR just got over $7 billion over the next 7 years to broadcast their sport on TV. And the network's just not going to want a situation where you could potentially go into the last race of the season with nothing on the line. And I hear out the people who say it's very rare that it would actually be clinched, the way the points are up for grabs. It would probably be the last couple races. I'm more of a fan of the 10-race chase format. I think you can kind of tweak it. You can still value winning. I don't know if you want to go automatic winning you're in situation. Maybe there's a weight on how much a win is worth in relation to how much points are worth. I think there's a way to make that happen where you're still racing it out over the last 10 races of the season, and the guys who are in the playoffs have all seemingly done something significant other than having one potentially lucky win to get through it. But let's just see what this committee decides, man. I don't know what direction this is going to go. The new Cup Series schedule is out as well. We knew a lot of this stuff. I won't go through everything, but I will say the highlights: North Wilkesboro is getting a points race. Dover is the all-star race. I'm all for North Wilkesboro getting the points race. I think it's going to be super awesome. It's, one of the birthplaces of the sport. I loved watching the all-star race there. Is the racing going to be great? I don't know. We got Richmond to kind of get us excited. Tire wear could be the future. I don't know if Goodyear and NASCAR worked on something to get Richmond the way it was, or if it was dumb luck, the way that year at Bristol where everything just kind of went off the rails, kind of by accident. But hopefully they can get that thing figured out. I do like the fact that we're going to have something on the line. Dover gets the all-star race. Dover's been struggling. This has kind of been the strategy for NASCAR, right? If you got a really struggling racetrack, throw it the all-star race and see if that can get it fixed. They did it to Texas, and then Ironically enough, Texas got better because of the new car package, and so that kind of, I guess, saved it. But hey, I was at two struggling racetracks this year. I went to Texas in person, went to Richmond in person, and both times enjoyed myself and thought the racing was better than I expected it to be. So hopefully that trend continues. And then lastly, the championship race next year is going to be at Homestead instead of Phoenix. Long awaited for me. Phoenix is just a little too gimmicky for my liking. I say at worst you need to have a rotation, and that seems to be what NASCAR is willing to do. They haven't made any decisions past this year, but Homestead will get the championship race as it used to have, which I think is a big step in the right direction. So all things considered, man, it was such a lull in the season, so many races that people just weren't fired up about in a row, and leave it to Richmond to turn that around potentially. I know the Good Race poll that Jeff Gluck does got huge ratings up in the 80-something percentile range. Austin Dillon with an upset win, and Tire Wear is back. So vibes are good. Vibes are high. Let's see if that carries over into Daytona. I'm excited for it. Everything on the line for the drivers who aren't in the playoffs yet. Playoff points still available for those jockeying for better position. Let's see what it looks like Saturday night under the lights in Daytona. As far as a winner is concerned, man, last week I went with the real wild card in Josh Berry, and it ends up being another wild card in Austin Dillon. This week, I just feel like there's been too much chaos in recent memory. I think somebody who's comfortably in those playoffs is going to get this win. So ultimately, I'll go with, and I've picked him a couple times here towards the tail end of the season, and he's just been struggling. Maybe Christopher Bell to get something done, get some momentum heading into the playoffs. He's shown you when he needs to do it, he can do it. He's got that clutch gene that we talked about with Austin Dillon having as well. Give me C-Bell on the lights at the high banks of Daytona International Speedway. All right, that'll do it for me this week. Dawson Iserlo signing out. It's the 4 Tire Change Podcast. Really appreciate all the support we've been getting lately, especially all the SVG wins. His fans have been coming out. The numbers have been way up. So would appreciate it if you could continue to stay locked in, stay subscribed, and leave us a comment. 4 Tire Change, signing out.